Welcome to Chapter 3, the most thrilling chapter. And now that you're here, we can drop the facade. We're going to talk about three different things: what types of data you might have, how to protect that data in all the different ways it needs to live and get passed around, and then how to respond if something goes terribly wrong. All right, what kind of data do you have? If you work for a company, you probably already have a list of data classification information with some kind of definition of each bucket. These four buckets are pretty common: public data, internal data, confidential data, and highly confidential. The reason for this strange drawing is that I always tell people the easiest way to classify a piece of data is to think about what your face would look like if somebody called you and said that piece of data had just been published on a website and everyone was looking at it. If you don't care, then it was already public. And if you are crying, it might have been highly confidential. So look at your company's definition, but these are a few ways to put things in buckets. About your personal life, you can classify things as well. And you might be thinking, why on earth does it matter? It's because you're not going to treat your tax documents in the same way you're going to treat your junk mail. They have very different levels of sensitivity, and how well you keep track of the passwords and how well you encrypt the documents before sending everything else depends on how sensitive it is. So there's a bunch of examples here, but think through what is most important to you and how you might handle that differently and even store it in a different place than the stuff that's already online. There is no way to protect data, at least no perfect way. The only way to keep data from ever being compromised is to simply not have it. So the first step when you receive sensitive data is to ask yourself whether you need that data. If you don't need this data to do your job or to live your life, get rid of it. Ask IT or someone else how to securely get rid of this data. A good example would be if you're trying to send out an email blast at work and you get a list of customers and their email addresses, and they also give you their birthdays and home addresses and everything else that your company has on them. If you don't need the rest of that data, find out how to get rid of it in at least your copies, because it will just hang around and it is yet another liability. You decided you have to keep this data. Let's talk about how to protect it. Encryption. The easiest way at home or at work to protect anything, unless your company has some special encryption protocols they've set up, like sensitivity labels or something else they require you to do, totally do that. If you don't have anything specific, the entire Microsoft Office suite has a decent encryption system built in. So you just click on the file menu and then come in here to protect presentation, and you can click encrypt with a password and put in a password. And in the old versions of Office, this was not very robust. Now it's actually pretty decent, especially if you use a very long password. Someone could still crack it given enough time and enough computing power, but for most purposes, this is pretty darn good. A quick note: when you encrypt something, don't forget the password. We're just going to leave password on there. Usually you have a password management system at work or at home. Put your passwords in there. Make sure your password management system is backed up somehow. You also have to think about what might happen if your computer just fails. Or in life, if you just fail and your family can no longer access your passwords. If this password is not terribly scary, to lose that data, then perhaps you can have a single copy with a backup somewhere. If this is encrypting everything you've ever had, you may want to have multiple copies in multiple places, including possibly physical copies. Number 2, protecting accounts. You are always responsible for the security of your accounts, because if your account is compromised, all the data in that account is compromised. Turn on MFA, have a unique random password. From previous lessons, MFA is multi-factor authentication. It's a text message or email or something else to confirm that it's really you getting into your account, and then store that in whatever your password management solution is, always. Sharing stuff. Your company probably has a way to share things that they recommend, and it is often by hitting the share button in either Microsoft apps or Google apps, whichever your company uses, and using the share icon there. That will let you specify who you are sharing with so that that person has to log in to access the file. That's good because then not just anybody who gets the file can look at it, only the people that you have set. Most people prefer to do share with anybody who has the link because it is easier, and it is. Just think about the sensitivity of the file you're sharing. If it is public data or very not sensitive data, fine. If it is confidential or highly confidential, you really want to lock that down. Also, for personal use or professional, when you do have to email a file, don't email the file unencrypted if it's sensitive, and don't email the password along with the file. Or send the file in one email and the password in another. I guess that's a little better, but the thing is it's going to sit in that person's inbox forever. Use onetimesecret.com or a similar trusted site to send the password completely separately from the document. We know the only way to fully protect data is to not have it. You need a plan for deleting your data. A good example is your tax returns. You don't need to save those for 50 years. You might need to save them for 7 years or 10 years, but it's probably not for your entire life. So, make a plan for when you get rid of this stuff, because unless you're completely broken as a human being, you're not going to think, say in June, I wonder if I should go throw away old tax documents. You need a system for when you file the new one. You get rid of the one that's 8 years old or 11 years old or whatever and keep going. Same goes for anything. If that's at work, you may have a client life cycle. You may have, financial records life cycle. You probably have these policies, and it is really good to check on whether stuff is ever being deleted, because nobody wants to be the one to hit that button. I understand the fear, but you got to get rid of it or you'll accumulate risk for the rest of your career or life. If things go terribly wrong and something that shouldn't be exposed has been taken by a bad guy or posted publicly online or whatever, the first thing to do is tell your company fast. If you do not have a company and you're an individual and your Google account has been compromised or something else, find that vendor and call them fast. If it is not a company you can figure out how to contact, if you search for how to report an account compromise, there is usually a method online to do that. That's it. Just remember, data is like electricity. It is super powerful and you can use it for tons of stuff, but it can be very dangerous. So, have a healthy respect for the data that you have. Don't have it if you don't have to. And then once you know that you have to have it, protect it with the appropriate level of care and then delete it. Training videos give you a certificate of completion. Here is yours. I hope you have enjoyed.